The superhero boom of the past 15 years or so has given audiences new heroes to root for. One of the most popular, both in terms of cultural impact and box office, is Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr. It's an exciting, often funny series of films that has captured audiences to the point that Tony Stark has also appeared in The Incredible Hulk and The Avengers. He will also appear in the upcoming Avengers sequel. It's a big property for Hollywood. In addition to all this, the Iron Man trilogy also feels heavily entrenched in post-9/11 American politics and culture. Terrorism has been present since the first Iron Man. We saw them living in caves, which is a not too subtle reference to where America believed Osama bin Laden was living. In Iron Man 3, we were introduced to the Mandarin, a stand-in for bin Laden. He sent threatening videos to the media, took credit for bombings, had a very familiar beard. It was meant to make us think of Osama bin Laden. That much is obvious. There are more examples, but those will come later. Anyway, if the Mandarin is meant to represent Osama bin Laden, who is Iron Man meant to represent? One could argue that he is supposed to be the personification of America in general, but looking closer, it may be more specific than that. One might see Tony Stark as the ultimate Republican politician, obscenely wealthy and hawkish in his politics and dealings. Conversely, one could argue that Stark negatively portrays a Democratic politician in that he seems incapable of controlling his scandalous sex life. A more popular interpretation, however, is that Iron Man does not broadly represent either of the two major American parties, but actually the Randian objectivism fringe that exists in the conservative movement. Objectivism, in a nutshell, is about self-interest and that man's only responsibility is to his own happiness. This means laissez-faire capitalism and an expansion of corporate power over a lawful government. It's the greed is good philosophy. There are parallels to Atlas Shrugged in the Iron Man trilogy. Both the novel and the blockbuster movie series have a protagonist who maintains a playboy image to the public. Another character in the novel, Hank Rearden, creates a metal alloy that the government wants and hauls him in to debate the matter. Ditto for Stark. The uncomfortable tenets of Ayn Rand are becoming more and more noticeable in American politics. We almost had a follower of her philosophy as vice president. Back to the hearing, there are a few problems with it. Notably, it paints the film with a decidedly anti-federal government message by showing the man defying said government to be the hero, but ignoring the fact that what he is doing is illegal. So very illegal. See, the government absolutely has a right to demand the Iron Man suit because the technology actually belongs to the government. Stark Industries is a defense contractor. It creates weapons for the United States military like Lockheed Martin and Halliburton. We know that's what he does. It's explained in the first film as he shows off his pre-Iron Man weapons. Basically, any technology built while on a government contract can be used only on that contract, whether it's a jet engine, new missile, or a bright red and yellow mech suit. The government paid for it. It's not the much hated among objectivists government overreach here either. Not only was it bought and paid for, but this is also a measure to keep the technology out of the hands of, say, terrorists, which is exactly what nearly happens in the first film. At the hearing where this is all being decided, the government really can just say, actually it's ours because we already bought it. But this is Iron Man 2, not Congressional Hearing 2. So Stark wins the argument by lieu of being obnoxious and hacking into government systems, which is also terribly illegal. In fact, he does this again in The Avengers, hacks government systems and abuses sensitive material. Considering recent news about how understandably serious the government takes someone grabbing information out of their computers and using it for their own purposes, one would assume Stark would be arrested, but he's allegedly the good guy in his own movie, so he gets a pass, somehow. He does it in the name of being massively, illegally against the federal government, and also in the name of himself. That's it. And finally, another interpretation of Iron Man is he represents abuse of force. Warfare that is broken out of modern conventions and acceptability for proper military usage. Tony Stark wages an extrajudicial war against terrorists, flying across borders without clearance, using his lollipop-colored weapon of mass destruction on whomever he deems worthy of being killed. The American government's recent track record of use of military force has not been stellar, but Iron Man seems less of a cautionary tale and more like the absolute hero of the story. So what if he's breaking international law, crossing borders with no legal authorization, and straight up murders people? The special effects are awesome. Now, government certainly abuses their power from time to time, obviously, but at least the law has oversight. Tony Stark puts himself well above the law and any semblance of common decency. He kills people without trials in the name of truth, justice, and what? Revenge? He's a vigilante, and the lack of accountability here is frightening. The single-mindedness and unilateralist international warfare are dangerous. Maybe we should not let a hot-headed, trigger-happy alcoholic who inherited all his power from his father have this much authority. Of course, one will immediately cry that he's only killing the bad guys. So what? Well, what makes Stark so absolutely sure that everyone he is kerploding with his unstoppable death machine is actually deserving of the death penalty? And this isn't even about terrorists who are clearly meant to resemble Al-Qaeda, the group responsible for 9/11. No, this is about civilians. It seems as if superheroes are not only blessed with incredible powers, but also with infallible certainty. And this is definitely the case with Iron Man. Sure, he uses his ungodly abilities to explode anything and everything he wants, but we, the audience, never see the human cost. War always brings civilian casualties. When America wages war on a country, that nation is bombed, not just military bases exclusively full of soldiers. The Iraq conflict has killed thousands of civilians. But in the Iron Man movies and the Avengers, Tony Stark launches missiles into populated areas like it's going out of style, but we don't see him annihilate any civilians, though considering the damage, that would be nearly impossible. In this interpretation of what the Iron Man movies are really about, Tony Stark is what we would hope war to be. Only the bad guys get hurt. Only Osama bin Laden gets shot. Only Al-Qaeda gets decimated. Only cruel despots like Saddam Hussein get executed in the end. That's not real life, though. That's Iron Man. However one views Iron Man and how he relates to post-9/11 America, there appears to be one commonality. Every interpretation seems horrible for what our hero represents.